My son-in-law told me my car's brakes were failing and offered to check them for me. I felt thankful, assuming he was just trying to help. But that night, something about his warning wouldn't leave my mind. So I went to the garage and checked the car myself. What I found underneath froze me in place, a small GPS tracker, blinking like a heartbeat. The next morning, I took it to the police, and the truth they found would turn my entire world upside down. Welcome. Before we dive in, drop a comment, letting me know where you're tuning in from. I love connecting with viewers worldwide. Quick reminder, this story blends creative storytelling with valuable life lessons. Names and details are fictional, crafted for entertainment and reflection. Now, let's begin. The pot roast was perfect tender, falling apart at the touch of a fork. I'd spent the morning preparing it the way Emily used to love. Mashed potatoes, green beans sautéed with garlic, and a store-bought apple pie cooling on the counter. Nothing fancy, but enough to make Marcus and Vanessa feel welcome. It was a Saturday afternoon in mid-October, the kind of day in Cedar Falls, when the maple leaves outside my window burned gold and crimson, and the air carried that sharp, clean smell of approaching rain. I set the table for 3, 12 years. That's how long Marcus had been part of this family. 7 married to my daughter, 5 more after I lost her. He arrived at 1:30, right on time. Marcus Thorne was 38 now, his sandy hair just beginning to thin at the temples. He worked as a logistics manager at Biochem Industries, one of the big pharmaceutical warehouses on the industrial edge of town. Vanessa, his wife, followed a step behind, 34 tall and lean, with sharp cheekbones and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. They'd been married 3 years. I'd tried my best to welcome her for Emily's sake. "Hey, Dad," Marcus said, pulling me into a quick hug. He'd called me that since Emily brought him home the first time back when she was 26 and he was 27. Even after she passed, he kept it up. I appreciated that. It meant something. "Marcus, Vanessa, come in, come in." I waved them toward the dining room. "Lunch is ready." We settled around the table. Small talk flowed easily enough. Vanessa's new project at the marketing firm, where she worked the Ducks' latest game, the weather. But I noticed Marcus seemed distracted. His gaze kept drifting toward the front window where my 2015 silver Honda Accord sat in the driveway. Oregon plate 7 XKR-492. I'd bought it used 5 years ago, right after Emily passed. Reliable. Quiet. The kind of car a retired aerospace engineer like me appreciated. No fuss, just function. Halfway through the meal, Marcus set down his fork. "Dad, I've been meaning to ask, how's your car running?" I looked up surprised. "The Honda fine. Why do you ask?" He hesitated, glancing at Vanessa. She nodded almost imperceptibly. "Well, when I pulled up, I thought I heard something. A kind of grinding noise when you drove it last week. Remember when you stopped by our place?" I frowned. "I don't recall hearing anything unusual." "Maybe you didn't notice," Marcus said, his voice careful. "But I've been working around heavy machinery at the warehouse. I've got an ear for that stuff. Would you mind if I took a quick look, just to be safe?" Something in his tone made me uneasy, but he was family. He'd been checking in on me for 5 years. What reason did I have to refuse? "Sure," I said. "Keys are on the hook by the door." Marcus stood wiping his mouth with a napkin. "I'll just be a few minutes." Vanessa stayed at the table, sipping her iced tea in silence. I tried to make conversation, but her answers were clipped, distracted. Through the window, I could see Marcus opening the driver's side door, then crouching down near the front wheel well. He disappeared into my garage. The door closed behind him. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 35. I glanced at the clock above the sink. "He's been out there a while." Vanessa shrugged. "He's thorough." Thorough. I'd worked at Boeing for 33 years, designing aircraft brake systems. I knew thorough. 35 minutes to check brake pads on a Honda Accord that didn't sit right. Finally, the side door opened, and Marcus stepped back inside. His hands were smudged with grease, his face grave. "Dad, we need to talk." He sat down heavily, shaking his head. "Your brake pads are shot. I mean, completely worn down, metal on metal. It's a miracle you haven't had an accident already." My chest tightened. "That's impossible. I had the car serviced 4 months ago at Phil's Auto. They replaced the pads." Marcus met my eyes. His expression was earnest, almost pleading. "I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they missed it. Maybe the parts were defective. But I'm telling you, Dad, those brakes are dangerous. If you keep driving that car, you could get seriously hurt. The word hung in the air, hurt. But the way he said it, slow, deliberate, it felt less like concern and more like a warning. I can give you the number of a guy I trust. Marcus continued pulling out his phone. He'll get you in this week, but until then, promise me you won't drive it. Please. I nodded slowly, my mind racing. Marcus scribbled a phone number on the back of a napkin and slid it across the table. Vanessa stood smoothing her blouse. We should get going, she said. Early day tomorrow. They left 10 minutes later. I watched through the window as their car, a dark blue SUV, pulled out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. The house felt too quiet. I picked up the napkin, staring at the smudged digits. Then I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled out the receipt from Phil's Auto. August 14th, 2024. Front and rear brake pads replaced. $487.32. I'd kept the paperwork like I always did. Something didn't add up. I thought about Emily, how she'd loved Marcus, trusted him completely, even when the cancer hollowed her out and left her too weak to stand. How he'd stayed by her side, held her hand, whispered promises I couldn't hear. How he'd called me 2 days after she passed voice breaking, asking if he could still come by for Sunday dinners. Family, he'd said. We're still family, Dad. But tonight, something in his eyes had been different. Cold. Calculating. I stood at the kitchen sink, hands braced against the counter, staring out at the driveway. The Honda sat there, ordinary and silent under the streetlight. By 11 o'clock, I still hadn't slept. The unease had grown into something sharper, an itch at the back of my mind I couldn't ignore. I pulled on my jacket, grabbed a flashlight, and headed for the garage. Whatever Marcus had done out there for 35 minutes, I was going to find out. The beam from my headlamp cut through the darkness beneath the Honda, illuminating the undercarriage in stark white light. I'd been on my back for only 2 minutes, but already the cold concrete was seeping through my jacket. The smell of motor oil filled my nostrils, familiar, almost comforting. I angled the light toward the front wheel well, toward the brake assembly Marcus had supposedly inspected. 33 years designing aircraft braking systems at Boeing had taught me exactly what worn brake pads looked like. Metal shavings, scoring on the rotors, a grinding sound. What I saw made my breath catch. The pads were new, not just serviceable new. The friction material was thick, barely worn, still showing the crosshatch pattern from the factory. I reached up, ran my fingers along the edge. No scoring, no heat cracks, maybe a few 100 miles on them if that. The receipt from Phil's Auto hadn't lied. Marcus had. Why would he lie about something so easy to verify? And why spend 35 minutes out here if he wasn't actually checking the brakes? I swept the headlamp beam slowly across the undercarriage, past the exhaust system, past the fuel tank, toward the rear axle. And then I saw it. A small rectangular box, no bigger than a deck of cards, clamped magnetically to the inside of the rear wheel well. Dark gray, almost black. On its surface, a tiny amber LED pulsed softly once every 3 seconds like a heartbeat. My hand trembled as I reached for it. The magnet released with a soft click. The device was heavier than I expected, cold metal against my palm. On one edge, a recessed button, Reset. A GPS tracker. Someone had been monitoring every move I made, every trip to the grocery store, every visit to Emily's grave at Riverside Cemetery. I sat up too fast, banging my head on the undercarriage. Pain flared, but I barely felt it. My pulse roared in my ears. Marcus. He'd been out here for 35 minutes. Plenty of time to plant this. But why? What possible reason could he have to track me? I turned the device over in my hands, the amber light still pulsing. For a moment, I considered storming to his house, right now, confronting him. But something stopped me. Old instinct from my years on classified projects at Boeing. When you found something wrong, you didn't react emotionally. You documented. You gathered evidence. I walked back into the house. The kitchen clock read 11:47 p.m. I set the tracker on the table, pulled out my phone, and took a dozen photos from every angle. Serial number, brand markings, the pulsing LED. Then I wrapped it in a dish towel and placed it in a Ziploc bag. Tomorrow morning I was taking this to the police. Sleep didn't come. I lay in bed replaying every interaction I'd had with Marcus over the past 5 years. The Sunday dinners, the birthday calls, the way he'd held my hand at Emily's funeral and promised he'd always be there for me. Had all of it been a lie? At 7:15 a.m. I pushed through the glass doors of Cedar Falls Police Station. A young officer at the front desk looked up from his computer. "Help you, sir. I need to report something." I set the Ziploc bag on the counter. "I found this attached to my car last night. It's a tracking device." His eyes widened. He picked up the phone, spoke in low tones, then gestured toward a hallway. "Officer Foster will see you. Second door on the right." Behind the desk sat a woman in her late 30s. Dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her nameplate read, "Officer Michelle Foster, Investigations." "Mr. Mitchell." She extended a hand. Her grip was firm. "I understand you found a GPS tracker on your vehicle under the rear wheel well." I handed her the bag. "I don't know how long it's been there." She pulled on latex gloves, removed the device, turned it over carefully. Her expression shifted. She typed the serial number into her computer and waited. The silence stretched. Then her screen flickered and she leaned forward. "Mr. Mitchell," she said slowly, "this isn't just any tracker. This serial number matches a device recovered from a crime scene 3 months ago." My stomach dropped. "What kind of crime scene?" "Biochem Industries, the pharmaceutical warehouse on Industrial Parkway." She met my gaze. "There have been 5 thefts there over the past 90 days. Someone with inside access has been stealing synthetic opioid precursors. Street value of each haul is around $340,000. I felt the room tilt. 340,000. The original tracker was left behind at the first scene. We logged it into evidence. But this one is a clone. Same model, same firmware. Whoever is behind the thefts duplicated it to monitor other vehicles. "Why my car?" My voice came out hoarse. Foster's eyes didn't leave mine. "That's what I need to ask you. Who has access to your vehicle?" I thought of Marcus crouched in my garage for 35 minutes. Marcus, who worked at Biochem. "My son-in-law," I said quietly. "Marcus Thorne, he's the logistics manager at Biochem, has been for 8 years. Foster's jaw tightened. She wrote the name down, underlined it twice. "Mr. Mitchell, if your vehicle has been used to transport controlled substances, you could be facing federal charges. 15 to 25 years in prison, minimum." The floor dropped out from under me. "I haven't transported anything." "I believe you," she said. "But we need to prove it. I'm drafting a cooperation memo with the FBI. In the meantime, don't touch your car. Don't mention this to anyone, especially not your son-in-law." I nodded numb. She handed me a business card. "If anything unusual happens, call me immediately." I stepped outside into the cool morning air. My legs felt unsteady. Marcus, Biochem, $340,000, 15 to 25 years. I fumbled for my phone, found the name I needed. Ray Torres, retired detective. My friend since we'd coached Little League together. The phone rang twice. Then his gravelly voice, "Robert, everything okay?" I looked back at the police station. "Ray," I said, "I need your help." The whir of a cordless drill cut through the quiet of my garage Monday evening. Ray Torres crouched beside my workbench, holding a penlight steady, while another man, compact, muscular, late 40s, worked a hole saw against the ceiling's drywall. Fine white dust drifted down like snow. Ray had arrived at 8:30 with barely a word about our phone call Sunday morning. He'd simply shown up with his friend Tony Russo and a black duffel bag full of equipment. No questions. No explanations needed. That's how it was with Ray. "Tony's former special ops," Ray said by way of introduction. "Did private security overseas for a decade. If anyone can set this up right, it's him." Tony Russo didn't look like the security contractors you saw in movies. He wore a faded Carhartt jacket and work boots. His gray hair buzzed military short. But his hands moved with the precision of someone who'd spent years rigging surveillance in places where mistakes meant lives. Infrared pinhole camera. Tony explained, extracting a device the size of a quarter from his toolbox. Goes flush with the ceiling. Invisible unless you know exactly where to look. Night vision's crystal clear up to 40 feet. He fed a thin cable through the hole, fishing it toward an outlet near the floor. Connects to your home Wi-Fi, but I'm setting up a separate encrypted network. Streams directly to your tablet. No cloud storage, just you. I watched as he mounted the camera lens, adjusted the angle to cover the entire garage, my Honda, the workbench, both doors. He pulled out his tablet, and suddenly I was looking at a live feed of myself in grainy green night vision. Motion-activated recording, Tony continued. 72 hours of footage before it loops. Should be more than enough. He pointed to both garage doors. Now for the locks. Ray handed him a pair of flat metal boxes, electromagnetic deadbolts. These replace your existing locks, Tony said, already unscrewing the strike plate. When they're engaged, nothing short of a battering ram is getting through. I'm wiring them to a remote control one-button press, and both doors seal simultaneously. Power to the garage cuts off too. Lights opener, everything. Oh, lockdown mode, Ray added. Once you trigger it, whoever's inside isn't getting out until the cops arrive. I felt a chill. The plan was taking shape. If Marcus came back when he came back, we'd have him on camera, and we'd have him trapped. Tony worked quickly running wiring through the door frames, connecting the electromagnetic bolts to a control panel hidden behind a breaker box, then syncing everything to a small remote. Red button, he said, handing it to me. Press and hold for 3 seconds. Doors lock. Power cuts, system alerts. Don't use it unless you're absolutely sure. By 10 o'clock, they were packing up. Tony ran one final test, watching as he moved through the garage, triggering the motion sensor. My own tablet lit up each time, displaying the feed in real time. You're set, Tony said. Keep the tablet charged and within reach. Ray clasped my shoulder as they headed out. Get some rest, Robert. Tomorrow we set the bait. After they left, I sat alone in my living room, the tablet balanced on my knees. The screen showed my empty garage in night vision green, the Honda sitting silent, the camera's eye unblinking. Morning came slowly. I'd barely slept, checking the tablet every hour. Nothing. At 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, I forced myself to follow Ray's instructions. Make it public. Make it visible. I walked 2 blocks to Carol's bakery. Carol Brennan, 65, white-haired. The kind of woman who knew everyone's business, looked up as the bell chimed. Robert, haven't seen you in a week. Just a coffee today, Carol. I leaned against the counter casual. Actually, if you see my Honda gone tonight, don't worry. Marcus is borrowing it to haul some equipment for work. Carol's eyebrows lifted. That boy's always so helpful. I forced a smile. I left the keys in the mailbox out front so we can grab it whenever. I'll be out late anyway, catching a movie with some friends. Will you enjoy yourself? From the bakery, I walked to Philip's pharmacy. Philip Garrett was restocking shelves near the vitamin aisle. Same script, same casual mention. Marcus borrowing the car, keys in the mailbox, me conveniently away. Philip nodded, distracted. Good of you to help him out. 2 witnesses, 2 people who could confirm I'd offered the car freely. If this went to court, no one could claim I'd been trying to trap my son-in-law. Back home, I called Marcus. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hey, Dad. What's up? Just wanted to let you know I'm heading out tonight. Seeing a movie with Ray. If you need to borrow the Honda for work, the keys will be in the front mailbox. A pause. Brief but there. Oh, thanks, Dad, but I'm not sure I'll need it. Well, just in case. I'll be home late. Another pause. Okay, appreciate it. He hung up. The bait was set. Cascade Cinema sat on the edge of downtown. Ray, Tony, and I bought tickets for the 7 o'clock, showing some action movie I couldn't have named. We took seats in the very last row, the tablet resting on my lap beneath my jacket. The theater darkened. Previews flickered. I barely registered any of it. My eyes kept dropping to the tablet, to the green-lit stillness of my garage. 7:30, 8, 8:30. Nothing. Ray leaned over, whispered patience. 9 o'clock, still nothing. I started to wonder if I'd been wrong. Maybe Marcus had nothing to do with the tracker. 10 o'clock. The movie's climax, explosions, gunfire, none of it registering. 10:30. And then at 11 p.m., just as the credits began to roll, the tablet vibrated. Motion detected. Rear garage door. My heart slammed against my ribs. Ray's hand clamped down on my arm. On the screen, the rear service door was opening. A figure stepped inside. Then another. Ray's voice barely audible. Let's go! We weren't at the theater anymore. Ray had pulled his Ford Taurus into a parking spot, 3 houses down from mine engine, off headlights dark. The three of us sat in silence, the tablet's glow casting green shadows across our faces. On the screen, two figures moved through my garage in grainy night vision. The first was unmistakably Marcus. The height, the way he moved shoulders slightly hunched. But the second figure threw me. Tall, slender, wearing a black leather jacket. Long hair hung straight down her back. Then she turned toward the camera and the angle of her jaw, the sharp cheekbones. Vanessa. She'd disguised herself. Different hair, different clothes. But it was her. "That's his wife?" I whispered. On the feed, Marcus moved to the Honda's rear bumper, pulled out a key, not mine, a copy, and popped the trunk. He reached in, drew out a black duffel bag I'd never seen before, heavy judging by how he gripped it. He unzipped it partway, and even through the infrared blur, I could make out rectangular packages wrapped in plastic, stacked tight. Vanessa stepped closer. Her lips moved. Tony, who'd synced an audio feed to a Bluetooth earbud, held up a hand for quiet. "She's saying something," Tony murmured. "Daniel, last shipment. Disappear fast." Marcus's response was barely audible. "5 more days, then we're done." They rezipped the duffel, carried it toward the back door, and loaded it into a dark SUV parked behind my fence. Oregon Plate 9 VLM 381. 30 seconds later, both vehicles were gone. Ray already had his phone out texting Michelle. Her reply came quickly. "Plate confirmed Vanessa Lawson, registered owner." So they were in this together. I felt something cold settle in my chest. The betrayal went deeper than I had imagined. "Go home," Ray said quietly. "Act normal. We'll regroup tomorrow." But normal was a long way off. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed until the numbers on my alarm clock read 4:37 a.m., then gave up. I walked to the garage tablet tucked under my arm. The Honda sat exactly where I'd left it. I opened the trunk. At first glance, everything looked ordinary. Spare tire, jack, emergency kit. I pressed down on the carpeted floor lining, testing for give. Then I found it a seam barely visible running along the rear panel. I pried upward, and with a soft click, a false floor panel lifted away. Underneath lay a hidden compartment. Stacks of cash bundled with rubber bands. 20s and 50s. I didn't count them all, but easily $80,000. Maybe 90. Beside the money, 2 airline tickets. São Paulo, Brazil. Departure, October 18th, 6:45 a.m. One way. 1 ticket in the name Vanessa Lawson. The other Michael Thorne, Marcus's alias. And beneath the tickets, a folded printout. Email correspondence dated a week ago. Biochem Industries logo at the top. Subject shipment 5, final delivery. Acyl chloride 12 kilograms. 4-ANPP 9 kilograms. Piperidine derivatives 15 kilograms. Estimated street value $340,000. D. Gregor will handle transport and distribution. Daniel Gregor, someone inside Biochem orchestrating all of this. I photographed everything. The cash, the tickets, the email. Then I placed it all back exactly as I'd found it. 5 thefts, 5 shipments, nearly $2 million. And my car had been their mule. But why leave the money here? Why not take it and run? Because they weren't done. There was still one more step. By 7 o'clock that evening, Ray and Tony were back. I'd called them after sunrise and told them what I'd found. "We need to see what else they're planning," Ray said. "If Marcus has a laptop files, we need it before they vanish." "I have a key to his house," I said. "Emily gave it to me years ago." Ray met my eyes. "You sure about this?" I thought of Emily, of the promises Marcus made at her bedside. "I'm sure." Marcus and Vanessa both worked evening shifts. By 7:15, their house on Pinehurst Drive was dark. I let us in through the side door. Tony swept the place quickly, no cameras, no alarms. We moved to the home office. A Dell laptop sat closed on the desk. I opened it. No password screen. "Overconfident," Tony muttered. Ray clicked through folders, documents, photos, and then plans. He opened it. Inside a single Excel file, Phase 2, final step. My stomach turned before I even read the first line. Target Robert Mitchell. Vehicle 2015. Honda Accord. OR 7XKR. -492. Method brake. Line sabotage. Location. Cascade Hill. Route 26 sharp. Descending curve. No guardrails. Projected date October 20th, 2024. Below that, Guardian Life Insurance Policy 847293. Beneficiary Marcus Thorne. Standard payout $750,000. Accidental death clause double indemnity $1,500,000. My vision blurred. I gripped the desk to stay upright. Further down, a handwritten note scanned into the file. D will cut brake lines night of October 18th. Corrosion simulation. Vanessa departs October 18th. A.M. Sao Paulo, flight 6:45. I depart October 19th. P.M. Meet at Safe House. Transfer complete by October 21st. They were going to stage my accident, cut my brakes, send me over Cascade Hill, then collect $1.5 million while I was buried beside Emily. Copy everything, Ray said, his voice tight. Tony was already plugging in a USB drive. I just stood there staring at the screen, at the dollar amounts. Marcus hadn't just betrayed me. He'd turned my life into a line item on a balance sheet. We left the house exactly as we'd found it. Drove back in silence. When I finally sat down at my kitchen table, the USB drive in front of me, the weight of it all crashed down. Marcus wasn't just stealing from Biochem. He was planning to murder me, to make it look like an accident, to walk away with Emily's memory and a fortune built on my grave. I thought of the pot roast on Saturday, the way he'd smiled, the concern in his voice when he'd lied about the brakes. All of it had been part of the setup. I sat there trembling, staring at the dark window. Somewhere out there, Marcus Thorne was counting down the days. And he had no idea that I was counting too. The cardboard box sat on the top shelf of my bedroom closet where it had been for 5 years. I'd put it there the week after Emily's funeral, couldn't bear to look at it, couldn't bear to throw it away. A shoebox wrapped in faded floral paper she'd chosen at a craft fair when she was 16. Thursday morning, October 17th, 3 days before Marcus planned to send me over Cascade Hill. I pulled the box down carefully, dust motes swirling in the morning light. The smell hit me first lavender and old paper, the perfume Emily used to wear. Inside her high school graduation tassel, a pressed corsage from prom birthday cards I'd sent her over the years. And beneath it all, a brown leather diary. I sat on the edge of my bed, hands trembling, and opened it. Her handwriting was small, precise, slanting slightly to the right. Early entries were cheerful wedding planning honeymoon in Maui Marcus's promotion at Biochem. But as I flipped forward, the tone shifted. The letters grew shakier, the entries shorter. February 12th, 2019. 2 months before she passed. I think Marcus is having an affair. There's a woman, Vanessa. I heard him on the phone last night after he thought I was asleep. He was whispering, laughing softly the way he used to laugh with me. I'm too weak to confront him. The chemo's destroying me faster than the cancer. I don't want Dad to know. If something happens to me, please, Dad, don't blame Marcus. Love him like a son. Don't let this tear what's left of our family apart. The page blurred. I blinked hard, forced myself to keep reading. March 15th, 2019. A month before I lost her. Marcus asked me about Dad's life insurance today, out of nowhere. We were in the hospital waiting room, and he said, "If your dad passes, who's the beneficiary?" I told him probably me. But since I'm not going to make it, maybe it would go to him or charity. He smiled. Not a sad smile. Something else. Something that made my stomach turn. I'm scared, but I'm too tired to do anything about it. I closed the diary chest, heaving. Emily had known. Not everything, but enough. She'd seen the affair. She'd sensed something wrong. And she'd been too weak, too sick, too kind to do anything but hope I'd never find out. I pulled out my phone, photographed every page, sent them to Michelle Foster with a message, "Found this." Emily knew. Her reply came back in under a minute. My God. Robert, this is motive. This proves premeditation, going back years. We have everything we need now. When do you want to move? I type back tomorrow night. Let him come. But I want to be there when you arrest him. I want him to see my face. 3 dots appeared, paused, then understood. We'll make it happen. Friday morning arrived, heavy and gray. I forced myself to go through the motions, coffee toast, the newspaper I didn't read. At noon, I picked up the phone. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Hey, Dad." His voice was light, casual. "Marcus, I wanted to let you know. My buddy Jerry gave me his old SUV. So I'm donating the Honda to charity next week. St. Vincent de Paul is picking it up Monday morning. A pause. Brief, but I caught it. Oh, that's great, Dad. Yeah, well, if you need to borrow it one last time, tonight's your chance. Keys in the mailbox, like usual. I'll be out late dinner with Ray and folks from the old Boeing crew. Another pause. Longer this time. I appreciate it, Dad. I'll let you know. Sure, no rush. I kept my voice even, friendly. See you soon, son. I hung up before he could reply. The bait was set. If Marcus believed the Honda was disappearing, Monday tonight would be his last chance to cut the brake lines. By 4 o'clock, Michelle Foster was sitting at my kitchen table with Ray Torres, Tony Russo, and 6 federal agents. They wore plain clothes, but carried themselves like people who'd kicked down doors in the dark. Michelle spread a diagram across the table. 2 unmarked vans will park here starting at 6 p.m. Agents inside full surveillance night vision. When Robert gives the signal, we breach both garage doors simultaneously. Electromagnetic locks will keep suspects contained until we're in position. One of the agents, a woman with steel gray hair, leaned forward. Mr. Mitchell, you're sure you want to be present for this? I met her eyes. I'm sure. She nodded once. Then you stay in the house, behind us. You do not enter that garage until we've secured all subjects. Understood. Understood. Ray squeezed my shoulder. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Tony checked his watch. We've got 90 minutes. Let's get into position. At 6 o'clock, the house was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I sat in my living room tablet balanced on my knees. Ray on my left, Tony on my right. Through the front window, I could just make out one of the FBI vans tucked into the shadows. The tablet screen glowed green, the garage empty and waiting. Ray's voice was low. You okay? I thought about Emily's diary, about the way she'd written love him like a son, even as Marcus was plotting to make me his next victim. No, I said, but I will be. Tony's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at me. Michelle says all teams are in position. We're live. I stared at the tablet, at the Honda sitting silent in the frame, at the rear door closed and locked. Somewhere out there, Marcus Thorne was making his final preparations, checking his watch, gathering his tools, telling Vanessa goodbye before she caught her flight to Sao Paulo. He thought he was in control, thought he'd planned every detail, thought that by this time tomorrow I'd be gone and he'd be a millionaire. He had no idea the trap was waiting. I settled back into the couch tablet in my lap, remote control in my pocket, and I waited. The hours crawled. 7 o'clock became 8. 8 became 9. The tablet screen never changed, just the empty garage, the Honda sitting still under the infrared glow. Ray made coffee. Tony paced. I didn't move. At 11:30 p.m. the tablet vibrated in my lap. Motion detected. Rear garage door. My pulse spiked. On the screen, the back door eased open. 3 figures slipped inside. The first I recognized immediately. Marcus. Black hoodie pulled low hands in his pockets. Behind him, Vanessa leather jacket catching the faint glow hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. And then, a third person, older, gray hair combed back, wearing a pressed Oxford shirt like he'd just come from the office. Broad shoulders, maybe late 40s. Ray's voice was barely a whisper. That's Daniel Greger, warehouse supervisor at Biochem. So this was the man behind it all. On the screen, Marcus approached the Honda, popped the trunk, lifted out a plastic bottle and wire cutters. Vanessa stood by the door, watching. Daniel moved to the front of the car, crouched inspecting. Then Daniel spoke. Tony had synced the audio feed to a small speaker, and his voice came through clear and calm. Cut the main brake line first, then the backup. Make small irregular cuts, make it look like natural corrosion. After that, rinse with this. He held up a bottle bleach. It'll erase any tool marks. By the time anyone examines it, it'll just look like old age and bad luck. Marcus nodded, dropped to his knees, and slid under the car. I watched his hands work the glint of metal, the twist of his wrists, cutting, severing, cutting the only thing that could stop me from going over Cascade Hill. Vanessa shifted nervous. How long will this take? 10 minutes, Daniel said, maybe less. Marcus reemerged, handed the cutters to Daniel, who poured bleach over the undercarriage. Then Daniel reached into his jacket, pulled out a small Ziploc. Bag white powder inside and tucked it into the trunk's hidden compartment. Perfect, Daniel said. Tomorrow morning, the old man drives to the grocery store, takes Route 26 like he always does. Cascade Hill brakes fail. He goes over. Accident. Tragic. The police investigate, find the precursors in his car, and conclude he was mixed up in something he couldn't handle. Case closed. Vanessa's voice was tight. And if they do, Daniel turned to her coldness in his expression. They won't. 5 shipments. 0 mistakes. By the time they figure out anything, we'll be in Sao Paulo with $2 million. Marcus collects the insurance, you two disappear, I take my cut and retire. Clean. Marcus stood brushing off his jeans. What about the tracker? Leave it, Daniel said, makes it look more real. Daniel checked his watch. Done. Vanessa, you're on the 6:45 flight. She nodded. Already checked in? Good. Marcus, you fly out tomorrow night. We meet in 3 days. He clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Congratulations. You're about to be a very wealthy man. Ray looked at me. I looked at the remote in my hand, pressed the red button, and held. The garage lights died instantly. The locks engaged. Clunk. Clunk. Both doors sealing shut. Inside, 3 voices shouted in sudden darkness. Then the emergency LEDs kicked in pale green safety lights, casting everything in sickly infrared glow. I stood. Ray and Tony flanked me. I walked to the door connecting the house to the garage, turned the handle, and stepped through. 3 faces turned toward me. Marcus frozen halfway to the back door. Vanessa pressed against the wall. Daniel standing in the center, eyes narrowed. Hello, Marcus, I said. My voice didn't shake. Marcus's face went white. Dad, what are you... I know everything I said. I know about the 5 thefts at Biochem, the $87,000 in my trunk, the tickets to Sao Paulo, the insurance policy, $750,000 standard, $1.5 million if I have an accident. I took a step forward. I know you planned this while Emily was still alive. I found her diary. February 2019. She knew you were sleeping with Vanessa. March 2019. She knew you were asking about my insurance. Marcus's face crumpled. Dad, please. The cameras recorded everything. I continued. Your laptop, Daniel's emails, the Excel file. Tonight cutting my brake lines, planting evidence, planning to make it look like I was trafficking so no one would investigate. Vanessa's voice cracked. You said no one would know. You said the plan was perfect. She whirled on Daniel. He said nothing, just stared at me jaw tight. Marcus dropped to his knees. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't want this. I owed money. Gambling debts. Daniel said he could help. Don't. Daniel's voice cut like a blade. He turned on Marcus' face, twisted with rage. You came to me. You asked me how to get rid of the old man. You wanted the insurance money. Vanessa's eyes went wide. You told me it was Daniel's idea. Shut up, Marcus shouted. You're a coward, Vanessa hissed. You used me. You used your father-in-law. You used Emily. I loved Emily, Marcus screamed. The words hung in the air. I met his eyes, saw the tears, saw the desperation, and felt nothing. No, I said quietly. You didn't? Ray's voice came from behind me. FBI, move in, now! The back door exploded inward. 6 agents in tactical gear poured through weapons raised. Hands on the ground now! Marcus, Vanessa, and Daniel hit the concrete. Michelle Foster stepped through badge out. Marcus Thorne, Vanessa, Lawson, Daniel, Gregor. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, theft of controlled substances, and interstate trafficking. Marcus twisted his head toward me, still on the ground. Dad, please. I'm family. Think about Emily. Emily's gone, I said. My voice was flat, empty. And you are not my family, not anymore. His face crumpled. He started to sob, but I turned away. Didn't watch as they cuffed him, led him out into the waiting van. Ray put a hand on my shoulder. It's over, Robert. I nodded, but I didn't feel victorious. Just empty. I looked at the Honda, at the car Marcus had turned into a weapon, and I thought about Emily, about the 12 years Marcus had called me Dad. All of it gone. Ray squeezed my shoulder. Come on, let's get you inside. I followed him back through the door. Behind me, the garage lights flickered back on, but the darkness didn't go away. Saturday morning, 6 o'clock. The fluorescent lights in Michelle Foster's office hummed overhead. I sat in the same chair I'd occupied the day I'd brought her the GPS tracker, a styrofoam cup of bitter coffee growing cold in my hands. Outside Cedar Falls was waking up. Inside the police station, 3 people sat in separate holding cells waiting for their arraignments. Michelle leaned back in her chair, exhaustion written across her face. Daniel Gregor started talking around 3 a.m., she said. Gave us names. 4 other warehouse workers at Biochem who helped move the precursors. We've already got warrants out. I nodded numb. And Vanessa, she lawyered up fast, but her attorney advised cooperation. She's blaming everything on Marcus. Says he manipulated her, threatened her. She'll testify against him in exchange for a reduced sentence. Us and Marcus. Michelle met my eyes. Silent. Refused to say a word. Just kept asking for his lawyer. Of course he did. Even now, sitting in a cell, he was calculating his next move. We executed search warrants on both properties overnight, Michelle continued. She slid a photo across the desk. Marcus's house drywall, ripped open, revealing a hollow space stuffed with banded cash. $250,000. Hidden in the wall behind a fake electrical panel. Another photo. A passport open to the photo page. Marcus's face, but the name read, Michael Thorne. Fake, Michelle said. High-quality forgery. And this. She turned her laptop toward me. A banking website. Offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $410,000. Opened 2 years ago. 2 years. Long before Emily passed. What happens now? My voice sounded hollow. Michelle tapped her pen against her legal pad. Marcus is facing multiple federal charges. Organized theft of controlled substances, 15 to 20 years minimum. Conspiracy to commit murder, 25 years to life. Insurance fraud, another 5 to 10. We're looking at 45 to 50 years, Robert. Or life without parole. The numbers felt abstract, distant. Michelle opened her desk drawer, pulled out a small manila envelope. We confiscated personal property from Marcus's house. Most of it's evidence, but these belong to Emily. I thought you'd want them. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside a wedding ring's simple gold band, and a photograph creased at the edges. Emily Marcus and me sitting on my back porch. Summer of 2017. Emily's hair still thick and dark, her smile bright. We'd looked like a family. I pressed the photo to my chest and wept. 2 weeks passed. I went through the motions. Fixed the brake lines on the Honda, though I couldn't bring myself to drive it. Had Ray and Tony over for dinner, but we mostly sat in silence. Tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus kneeling in the garage sobbing. The trial was set for March. Michelle called twice a week with updates. The case was airtight. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt nothing. On the night of November 18th, at 2:17 in the morning, I woke to the sound of shattering glass. My phone was already buzzing the garage camera alert. I grabbed the tablet, pulled up the feed. A man stood in my garage crowbar in hand wearing a black ski mask. He was prying at the Honda's trunk. Younger than Marcus, maybe mid-30s, broad-shouldered. I didn't think. Just dialed 911 then, Ray. There's someone in my garage, I said. Armed. Breaking into the car. Ray's voice came through a second later. I'm 2 minutes out. Don't go near him. But I was already moving toward the hallway closet where I kept a wooden broom handle. My fingers closed around it. On the tablet, the man had gotten the trunk open. He was rummaging inside, frantic, looking for the USB drive. I'd moved it weeks ago, hidden it in a safe deposit box at the bank. But this guy didn't know that. He turned toward the door, connecting the garage to the house. Started walking. The knob rattled. I stood in the kitchen broom handle, gripped in both hands, heart slamming. 33 years designing aircraft gave you an appreciation for leverage for force distribution. The door burst open. The man stepped through, pulled the ski mask up. Young, maybe 34. Thin scar along his jaw. He saw me and stopped. Where's the drive? His voice was rough, desperate. He pulled a blade from his jacket, 4-inch folding knife. The USB. Marcus said you had it. Give it to me. Marcus, I said slowly, is in jail. He's my cousin's husband, Vanessa's family. And he paid me $15,000 to finish what he started. He lunged. I didn't swing, just shifted, stepped to the side, angled the broom handle low. The handle caught his wrist. Physics did the rest. His hand torqued, the knife clattered to the floor, and he stumbled. Ray Torres exploded through the front door. He hit the guy mid-stumble, drove him into the wall, pinned him. Don't move. Sirens wailed outside. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop. Officers poured out. They cuffed him, Kyle Brennan, Vanessa's cousin. By sunrise, he'd confessed everything. Marcus had bribed a guard at the holding facility, smuggled in a contraband phone, ordered Kyle to destroy the evidence. Michelle called me at 7 a.m. We're transferring Marcus to a maximum security facility in Portland. No outside contact. He's done. I hung up, sat at my kitchen table staring at the broom handle. Marcus hadn't given up. Even from inside a cell, he was still fighting. I thought about Emily's diary, about the 12 years I'd let him into my life, and I realized this wasn't over. Not yet. The first letter arrived the week after Kyle Brennan's arrest. I almost threw it away. The return address alone made my stomach turn. Marcus A. Thorne, Federal Holding Facility, Portland, Oregon. I left it unopened on the kitchen counter for 2 days. Finally, late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I tore it open. Generic apology. Vague excuses. A plea for understanding. I crumpled it into the trash. But Marcus didn't stop. November the 25th, Thanksgiving week. Another envelope arrived. This time I opened it immediately, standing at the mailbox in the cold. Dear Dad, I need you to know I didn't order Kyle to hurt you. He acted on his own. My lawyer says if you write a letter to the judge requesting leniency, they might reduce my sentence to 15 or 20 years instead of life. I know I don't deserve your help, but please, Dad, think about Emily. Think about what she would have wanted. She loved us both. Don't let anger destroy what's left of our family. Please, Marcus. I read it twice. Each word felt like a needle sliding under my skin. He was still doing it, still manipulating, still using Emily's memory as a weapon. I walked back inside, fed the letter into the paper shredder, and watched it turn to confetti. 3 days later, November the 28th, another envelope arrived. Thinner. No handwritten note inside. Just a single sheet of printer paper. Dad, I left something for you in the cloud. This is the link and password. Please watch. This is the last thing I can do for you and Emily. Below that, a URL, and beneath it, password Emily Forever 2019. I stared at the paper. Every instinct told me it was a trap, but the password Emily Forever 2019 stopped me cold. That was the year I lost her. Curiosity won. I sat down at my laptop, opened an incognito browser, and typed in the link. A login screen appeared. I entered the password. The page loaded. 2 video files. Emily_final_message.mp4. Recorded April 5th, 2019. Marcus_confession.mp4. Recorded October 25th, 2024. I moved the cursor to the first file, hesitated, then clicked. The video quality was grainy handheld. Then the frame steadied and I saw her. Emily. She sat propped against pillows in our guest bedroom, the one we'd converted into a hospice room. A knit turban covered her head, soft lavender. Her face was thin cheekbones, sharp skin pale as paper. But her eyes were still bright. She smiled at the camera. That same smile she'd given me every morning for 29 years. Hi, Dad. Her voice was soft, hoarse. She paused to catch her breath. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. And I'm so sorry I couldn't say these things to your face. But I was too tired, and I didn't want to make you cry any more than I already have. She laughed, weak but real. My chest ached. I need you to know something. You taught me how to think, how to use logic. But Dad, love isn't logical. It doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't make sense on a spreadsheet. She glanced off camera toward the window. Sunlight streamed through. Marcus isn't perfect. I know that. He's weak sometimes. He makes mistakes. But I love him anyway. And if something happens, if he does something you don't understand, I hope you can forgive him. Not because he deserves it, but because holding on to hate will ruin you, Dad. I don't want that for you. Her hand reached toward the camera fingers, trembling. Family isn't about being perfect. It's about being there when everything falls apart. And I need you to remember that. Please. For me. Her smile faltered. Tears slid down her cheeks. I love you, Dad. I'll always love you. And I need you to live. Not just survive life. Be happy. Don't let this break you. She leaned forward, kissed her fingers, pressed them to the camera lens. "Goodbye, Daddy." The screen went black. I sat frozen. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't breathe. Emily had known Marcus was flawed. Maybe she'd even suspected he was dangerous. And still she'd asked me to forgive him. Not for his sake, for mine. I wiped my eyes, took a shuddering breath, and clicked the second file. Marcus sat on a metal stool in an orange jumpsuit. His face was gaunt, eyes hollow. He looked 10 years older. He stared into the camera for a long moment, then spoke. "Dad, I owe you the truth. Everything I said in those letters, it was lies. I'm not a victim. Daniel didn't force me. Vanessa didn't manipulate me. I made every choice, and I made them because I'm greedy, and weak, and terrified of being poor." His voice cracked. "When Emily got sick, I panicked. I'd been gambling, and I'd racked up $200,000 in debt. Loan sharks. Daniel offered me a way out. Help him steal precursors from Biochem, split the profits. I said yes. And then Emily passed, and I thought if you were gone too, I'd inherit everything. I wouldn't just be debt-free, I'd be rich." His eyes met the camera again. "The idea to eliminate you, that was mine. Not Daniel's, not Vanessa's. Mine. I'm the one who looked up brake line sabotage. I'm the one who picked Cascade Hill. I'm the one who opened the life insurance policy while Emily was still alive." He laughed bitterly. "I used her dad. I used you. I destroyed everything good in my life because I was too much of a coward to just ask for help." He leaned forward. "I don't expect you to forgive me. What I want is for you to forget me. Don't let me poison the rest of your life. Emily loved you more than anything. Live for her." He reached forward. The video cut to black. I sat in the dark laptop screen, glowing faintly. Marcus's confession echoed in my head. The idea to eliminate you, that was mine. And Emily's voice, softer, layered beneath it. "Family is about coming home even when you've screwed up." Emily had asked me to forgive him, but Marcus had just admitted he didn't deserve it. Could I live with hate? Could I live without it? I closed the laptop, sat in the darkness, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't have an answer. The federal courthouse in Portland stood like a granite fortress against the December sky, cold rain streaking its tall windows. I climbed the steps slowly, Ray Torres beside me, his hand steadying my elbow. Inside, the air smelled of wood polish and old paper, the smell of justice, or at least its machinery. The courtroom was smaller than I had imagined. Oak benches, high ceilings, the seal of the United States, mounted above the judge's bench. I took my seat in the gallery third row back and waited. At 9 o'clock, sharp a side door opened. 3 figures in orange jumpsuits, shuffled in wrists, cuffed ankles chained. Marcus, first, thinner than I'd ever seen him, shoulders hunched. Vanessa behind him, eyes red and swollen, and Daniel Gregor, last face blank as stone. They sat at the defense table. Marcus's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Klynn, leaned over to whisper something. Marcus nodded without looking up. He hadn't looked at me once. The judge entered Judge Helen Marlowe, 62, gray hair, swept into a tight bun, 20 years on the federal bench. We rose, sat. The prosecutor stood. Assistant United States Attorney Monica Delgado. Mid-40s, impeccable Navy suit voice like a scalpel. "Your Honor, the United States charges Marcus Andrew Thorne with 5 counts of organized theft of controlled substance precursors, 1 count of conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to cause serious bodily harm with intent to collect life insurance proceeds. We charge Vanessa Marie Lawson with 4 counts of accomplice theft and 1 count of conspiracy. We charge Daniel Paul Gregor with 5 counts of organized theft and 1 count of conspiracy." Her voice was steady, clinical. "The government will present video surveillance, forensic evidence of vehicle sabotage, financial records, diary entries, and testimony from cooperating witnesses. We will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these 3 defendants systematically stole over $1.7 million in precursor chemicals and planned the elimination of Robert Mitchell to collect a $1.5 million insurance payout." She sat down. Sarah Klynn stood for the defense. "Mr. Thorne was coerced by Daniel Gregor, a senior supervisor with access and influence. He made mistakes, serious mistakes, but he is not the architect of this conspiracy. He is a victim of manipulation and fear. I almost laughed. Victim? The prosecution called me to the stand just after lunch. I walked to the witness box, hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. I do. Monica Delgado approached. Mr. Mitchell, please tell the court how you first became aware of the defendant's activities. I took a breath, and I told them all of it. The Saturday lunch, Marcus inspecting the car, the lie about the brake pads, finding the GPS tracker, the hidden compartment with cash and tickets, the laptop file labeled Phase 2, Emily's diary from 2019. By the time I finished, 2 hours had passed. The courtroom was silent. Sarah Klinn rose for cross-examination. Mr. Mitchell, you left your keys in the mailbox. That's quite trusting. Or quite convenient, if you wanted plausible deniability. Objection, Monica said. Speculation. Sustained, Sarah pressed on. Isn't it possible you were aware of his activities? No, I wasn't involved. My voice was flat. I was the target. She studied me, then nodded. No further questions. Monica stood holding a tablet. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce Exhibit J, a video confession recorded by Marcus Thorne on October 25th, 2024. The screen lit up. Marcus's face filled at orange jumpsuit hollow eyes. The idea to eliminate you, that was mine. Not Daniel's, not Vanessa's. Mine. I watched Sarah Klynn's face go pale. The video ended. The judge leaned back. The defense's claim of coercion appears inconsistent with the defendant's own testimony. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Vanessa's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client wishes to provide testimony for the prosecution in exchange for a reduced sentence. Marcus's head snapped up. He stared at Vanessa, who wouldn't meet his eyes. Vanessa took the stand. Monica approached. Ms. Lawson, who initiated the plan to harm Mr. Mitchell. Vanessa hesitated, then pulled out a folded piece of paper. Marcus sent me this letter in November, from jail. She unfolded it. Her hands shook. He wrote, If you get a heavy sentence, drag Robert in. Tell them he knew the plan from the start. Say he agreed to lend us the car in exchange for 10% of the profit. The court will suspect him, and it'll create reasonable doubt for me. The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel slammed down. Order. Monica took the letter. Your Honor, this letter has been examined by a forensic handwriting expert. It is consistent with Marcus Thorne's handwriting. Sarah shot to her feet. Objection, this is prejudicial. Overruled. The letter is admissible. I sat frozen. Marcus had tried to frame me, even after the arrest. He'd written to Vanessa, planning to drag me down with him. If you're still with me, let's do a quick poll comment, Robert. If you believe he'll prove his innocence, or Marcus. If you think his letter will succeed in casting doubt. I'm really curious. One more thing. The scenes ahead blend. Fact with creative dramatization. If you'd rather skip that, this is a natural stopping point. Marcus stood abruptly in chains rattling. Dad, I didn't write that letter Vanessa's lying. She forged it. The bailiff moved toward him. The judge's gavel cracked. Mr. Thorne, sit down. She's lying. Marcus's voice broke. Dad, please. Bailiff removed the defendant. 2 officers grabbed Marcus's arms. He twisted, looking back at me. Dad, please. I didn't move, didn't speak. They dragged him through the side door. It slammed shut. The handwriting expert confirmed the letter was Marcus's. No forgery. No doubt. I walked out into the hallway, legs shaking. Ray was there. Michelle Foster. That letter Vanessa just buried him, Michelle said. I nodded, but I didn't feel relief. Just exhaustion. Marcus had tried to destroy me one last time, had tried to paint me as an accomplice, and part of me still heard Emily's voice. Family is about coming home even when you've screwed up. But Marcus hadn't come home. He'd burned it to the ground. I closed my eyes, leaned against the cold marble wall, and wondered when this would finally be over. The gavel came down like a period at the end of a long, bitter sentence. All rise, the bailiff intoned, and I stood my knees stiff from 2 hours of sitting through the final arguments, the jury instructions, the wait. The courtroom in Portland's Federal Building was packed reporters in the back rows. A few biochem employees I didn't recognize. Ray and Tony flanking me, Michelle Foster near the prosecution table. Judge Helen Marlowe. 62 gray hairs swept into a tight bun, adjusted her reading glasses and looked down at the 3 defendants, seated at separate tables. Marcus Thorne, 38, in a navy suit that no longer fit well. Vanessa Lawson, 34, in a plain gray dress, hands folded. Daniel Greger, 48, silver hair slicked back, staring at the table. The court has reviewed the jury's unanimous verdict. Judge Marlowe began, her voice steady and cold. Mr. Thorne, you have been found guilty on all 5 counts. Conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Conspiracy to cause serious bodily harm. Theft of controlled chemical precursors. Money laundering. And obstruction of justice. She paused, let the weight settle. The sentencing guidelines combined with the evidence of premeditation, the exploitation of familial trust, and the deliberate endangerment of a 71-year-old man, compel this court to impose the maximum allowable term. You are hereby sentenced to 28 years in federal custody with no eligibility for early release. I heard Marcus's lawyer, Sarah Klinn, shift in her seat. Marcus didn't flinch. Judge Marlowe turned to Vanessa. Ms. Lawson, your cooperation with federal investigators has been noted. You are sentenced to 24 years. Then Daniel. Mr. Greger, in light of your testimony and cooperation, 19 years. The judge set down her papers and looked directly at the 3 of them. The defendants not only stole and conspired to cause harm, she said they betrayed a father's trust in the most intimate circle of family. That betrayal compounds every count listed here. This court hopes these sentences send a clear message. No bond, neither marriage nor blood, excuses such calculated cruelty. She struck the gavel once more. Court is adjourned. The deputies moved in belly chains, clinking as they cuffed Marcus first. He turned his head as they led him past the gallery railing. Our eyes met for half a second. He whispered, "Dad." I looked at him. I didn't speak. I didn't nod. I just looked. There was nothing left to say. Ray touched my elbow. Let's get you out of here. The drive back to Cedar Falls took 90 minutes, the winter sun low and pale over the Cascade foothills. I gripped the wheel of the replacement sedan Ray had insisted I trade the old Accord in, and tried to feel something. Relief, satisfaction, justice. But all I felt was tired. Marcus would spend the next 28 years in a federal facility. Vanessa and Daniel nearly as long. The stolen chemicals had been recovered. The insurance claim had been voided. The FBI had its case. Everyone said I'd done the right thing. So why did it feel like I'd lost? 3 weeks passed. I fixed the garage door. I had Christmas dinner with Ray and his wife Tony and his teenage daughter. I tried to sleep without the tablet on my nightstand, without the phantom buzz of motion alerts. Some nights I succeeded. On the morning of January 8th, 2025 at 10:47 a.m., I found a package on my front porch. Brown padded envelope, no return address, postmarked Seattle. Inside a small SanDisk USB stick and a folded piece of lined notebook paper. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. From Emily, I want Dad to know. My hands shook as I unfolded the note again, as if reading it twice would make it make sense. Emily had been gone since April 2019. Nearly 6 years. I went inside, plugged the USB into my laptop, and sat in the leather armchair by the window. One file, Emily_evidence_March 2019.mp4. I clicked play. The video was grainy shot from a low-angle hidden camera, maybe taped under a shelf or behind a picture frame. The timestamp in the corner read, March 14th, 2019, 9:47 p.m. 2 men sat at a kitchen table. I recognized it instantly, Marcus's old apartment, the one he'd rented before moving into the house on Maple Street. Marcus, younger, cleaner-shaven, leaned forward. Across from him sat Daniel Greger, the same silver hair, the same cold eyes. Marcus's voice low and steady. After she's gone, I'll be the only heir. Then we eliminate him. You start moving the chemicals now. I'll get you $1 million after. Daniel, when... Marcus, 6 months, maybe a year. Lung cancer moves slow. Daniel nodded. I'll need access to Warehouse B and a truck. Marcus, done. I'll make it look like inventory errors. No one checks the logs that close. They clinked beer bottles. The screen went black for a moment. Then Emily's face appeared thin pale, wearing the green silk scarf I'd given her for her 33rd birthday. She was in bed, propped on pillows, oxygen tubing in her nose. Her voice was barely a whisper. Daddy, I'm so sorry. She coughed, took a breath. I recorded this because I needed you to know the truth. I found the camera in a box of Marcus's old things. I set it up in his kitchen one night when he thought I was asleep. I didn't want to believe it, but I heard him on the phone. I knew. Tears streaked her hollow cheeks. I wanted to tell you, but I was so tired, Dad. I didn't have the strength to fight him and fight this. She held up a small envelope. I'm giving this to Carol next door. I told her if anything ever happens to you, anything strange, anything that doesn't feel right, she should mail it. I pray she never has to. Her voice cracked. Use it if you have to. Protect yourself, and know that I loved you both, even him. God help me, but I loved you more. A weak smile. Goodbye, Daddy. The screen froze on her face. I sat there, the laptop still glowing in the dark living room, the winter wind rattling the windows. Emily had known. She'd known Marcus was planning to eliminate me. She'd known Daniel was already stealing the precursors. She'd known, and she'd left me the proof. And even in her last week, sick and dying, she'd protected me. I closed the laptop, pressed my palms against my eyes, and wept. Not for Marcus. For my daughter. For the burden she'd carried alone. For 7 days, Emily's third video sat on my laptop like a bomb I didn't know how to defuse. I watched it twice more. Each time the same question clawed at me. What do I do with this? I could send it to the FBI, add years to Marcus's sentence, or I could delete it, let Emily's evidence vanish. But neither felt right. On the morning of January 15th, 2025, I made a different choice. I was going to show it to Marcus, face to face, one last time. Sheridan Federal Correctional Institution sits 60 miles southwest of Cedar Falls. I'd driven past it a dozen times, never imagining I'd walk through its doors. The security checkpoint was everything you'd expect: metal detector, ID scan, visitor log. A guard confiscated my phone, wallet, keys. He stamped my hand with UV ink and waved me through. Visitation room C, he said. 30 minutes. The hallway smelled like disinfectant. A guard led me into a small room, cinder block walls, a plexiglass partition, 2 stainless steel stools bolted to the floor, a black handset phone on each side. I sat. The stool was cold. A door on the other side opened. Marcus shuffled in. I barely recognized him. Orange jumpsuit hanging loose on a frame that had lost 20 pounds. Wrist shackles, hollow cheeks, dark circles under red-rimmed eyes. He sat slowly and picked up the phone. I did the same. For a few seconds we just looked at each other through the scratched plexiglass. Thank you for coming, Dad, Marcus whispered. I didn't think you would. I didn't answer. Did you watch the 2 videos I sent? I nodded. Emily's was real. She knew I wasn't perfect, but she still loved me. Mine was real too. I was greedy, weak, but I really did love Emily, and I regret what I did to you. I leaned forward, voice flat and cold. You regret betraying Emily, planning to harm me, or do you just regret getting caught? Marcus flinched. At first, just getting caught. But now, I truly regret it. I destroyed everything, but I know you'll never forgive me. You're right, I said. I won't. There's a 3rd video, I said quietly. Marcus's eyes widened. What? Emily recorded it in secret. March 2019. While she was still alive, she hid a camera in your kitchen. His face went white. What are you talking about? She recorded you and Daniel, planning everything. You said, and I quote, after she's gone, I'll be the only heir. Then we eliminate him. You start moving the chemicals now. I'll get you $1 million after. Daniel asked when. You said 6 months, maybe a year. Lung cancer moves slow. I leaned closer. She knew Marcus. She knew you were planning to harm me, and she was too weak to stop you. So she left evidence to protect me after she was gone. Marcus dropped the phone. It clattered. He pressed both palms against the glass, shaking his head. I picked up my phone again. He grabbed his gasping. No. Emily knew she was protecting you while I... His voice cracked. He doubled over, sobbing. The screen went black. Then Emily appeared. Thin, pale, oxygen tubing. Daddy, I'm so sorry. I recorded this because I needed you to know the truth. I'm giving this to Carol next door. If anything happens to you, anything strange, she'll mail it. Use it if you have to. Protect yourself. I love you, Daddy. The video ended. Marcus dropped the phone. It clattered against the metal shelf. He pressed both palms against the glass, shaking his head. I picked up my phone again. He grabbed his gasping. No, Emily knew she protected you while I... His voice cracked. He doubled over, sobbing. She loved you until her last breath, I said. She knew you were planning to harm me. She was too weak to stop you. So she left evidence to protect me after she was gone. Marcus looked up, tears streaming. You didn't deserve her love, I continued. You don't deserve my forgiveness. You betrayed Emily, betrayed me. I paused, but Emily wanted me to forgive. So I'll do this. I will not hate you. I will not live in hatred. I will keep living for Emily. But you and I, we are no longer family. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand, Dad. Thank you, and please live happily. That's what Emily wanted. I stood, set the phone down, turned toward the door. Dad, I stopped, didn't turn around. His voice muffled. I love you. I love Emily. Please remember that. I stood there for 3 seconds. Then I walked out. 20 miles down Highway 26, I pulled onto the shoulder hands, trembling. I stared out at the brown winter fields, the low gray sky. And for the first time in 9 months, I felt the weight lift. I hadn't forgiven Marcus. Maybe I never would. But I wasn't carrying the hate anymore. Emily had asked me to live. And finally I could. 6 months can feel like 6 years when you're rebuilding a life from rubble. By July 2025, I'd done what I could. I sold the silver Honda, couldn't look at it without seeing Marcus's hand on the brake line, and bought a used Subaru Outback Forest Green. I joined a hiking club at Cedar Falls Community Center. Every Saturday morning, I taught a free science class for kids at the public library. Simple experiments, baking soda volcanoes, static electricity. The kind of thing Emily used to love when she was small. Ray and Tony stopped by once a week for coffee. Michelle Foster called in May to let me know the last 4 warehouse workers had been sentenced. The case was closed. But something still felt unfinished. One morning in mid-July, I was sorting through Emily's things and found her diary again. A page I'd missed caught my eye. March 20th, 2019. Dad, if one day I'm no longer here, go to Cannon Beach where we camped when I was 12. Stand on the shore, watch the sunrise, and remember that every new day is a gift. I sat there for a long time, staring at her looping cursive. Then I grabbed my keys. Cannon Beach is an hour and a half west of Cedar Falls, tucked along the Oregon coast. Haystack Rock. 235 feet tall, older than memory, stands alone in the surf. Emily and I camped there the summer she turned 12. We roasted marshmallows, collected sand dollars, watched the sun come up over the Pacific. I arrived at 5:15 a.m. on July 15th. The parking lot was empty. I walked barefoot across the cool sand toward the monolith. The sky was still dark, the ocean a low rumble. I found a piece of driftwood smooth enough to sit on and pulled a small wooden box from my jacket pocket. Inside Emily's wedding ring and a photo from 2017, the 3 of us at Thanksgiving. I held the ring in my palm and watched the horizon. At 5:32 a.m., the first sliver of orange appeared, then pink, then gold. The sky cracked open like a promise. I whispered, Emily, I did it. I didn't let hatred destroy me. I'm still living like you hoped. A gull called overhead. The tide rolled in cold water, kissing my bare feet. For the first time in 18 months, I felt her with me. Not as a ghost, as a memory that didn't hurt. Excuse me, am I interrupting? I turned startled. A woman stood a few feet away, maybe 55, silver gray, hair cut short. Wearing a hand-knit sweater the color of sea foam, she smiled gently. I saw you sitting alone, she said. You looked a little sad. Would you like some coffee? My cafe's just up the road. I hesitated, then I nodded. Her name was Olivia Reed. Her place, Sunrise Cafe, was a tiny A-frame with 6 tables and mismatched chairs. We sat by the window. She poured 2 mugs. I lost my husband 5 years ago, she said quietly. Car accident. Took me 2 years to learn how to live with it. I looked down at my coffee. I just came through a family crisis, I said. Still learning how to forgive. Olivia nodded. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means you're no longer letting the past control your future. She paused. And I think you've already done that. Her words landed soft like snow. I thanked her, paid for the coffee, and promised to stay in touch. That afternoon, I walked the beach again. This time, I left the ring and photo at the cafe. Olivia said she'd keep them safe until I decided what to do with them. I didn't need to carry them anymore. I stood in front of Haystack Rock and whispered, "Emily, I kept my promise. I'm still living. I'm learning to trust again, not blindly, but not in fear either." A child's voice called out, "Mister, do you want to fly the kite?" A boy, maybe 10, held a red and yellow hawk kite. I smiled. Sure. We ran together down the beach, the wind catching the kite, lifting it higher, until it danced against the blue. The boy laughed. I laughed. And for the first time since Emily's funeral, I felt free. At 6 p.m., the sun began to set streaks of lavender and gold bleeding into the ocean. I said goodbye to Olivia, promised I'd be back, and climbed into the Subaru. On the drive home, the radio played "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, Emily's favorite. I sang along, off-key and perfect, but full of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. I pulled into my driveway just after dark. Inside on the table sat a new photo. Me surrounded by 12 kids from the Saturday science class, all of us grinning, holding test tubes. I looked at the photo, then I looked out the window at the sky full of stars. I whispered, "Thank you, Emily. I'll keep living for you for those kids for myself." Then I turned off the lights and went to bed, and for the first time in 18 months, I slept peacefully. I never imagined family betrayal could wear the face of someone I loved like a son. For years, Marcus sat at my table, called me Dad, and planned my end. That's the devastating truth about family betrayal. It doesn't announce itself. It hides behind familiarity, affection, and trust. My advice: don't make my mistake. Trust, but verify. Love deeply, but keep your eyes open. Family justice doesn't mean seeking vengeance. It means refusing to let betrayal steal your future. I pursued family justice not through hatred, but through truth, evidence, and the courage to confront what I didn't want to believe. Here's what I learned: family betrayal can shatter you, but it doesn't have to destroy you. I chose to honor Emily's memory by living not in bitterness, but in purpose. Teaching kids science, hiking with friends, watching sunrises at Cannon Beach. That became my family justice. Not revenge, peace. God gives us the strength to forgive, but also the wisdom to recognize when someone has forfeited their place in our lives. I haven't forgiven Marcus. Maybe I never will. But I've released the hate, and that's enough. Thank you for joining me through this entire journey. I'm curious, what would you have done in my position, facing such profound family betrayal from someone you trusted completely? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in your perspective. If this story touched something in you, please subscribe to catch upcoming stories. A brief clarification. Though rooted in authentic themes of deception, loss, and resilience, some narrative elements have been dramatized to enhance the storytelling experience. If this type of content doesn't align with your interests, feel free to browse other videos that may be a better fit.